Hey guys, it's Kristen with ICStarsQuilting.com. Today I'm going to show you my favorite Halloween quilt that I've made, the one that I use every single year. It's like really close to October. I think we have like a few days left. So I'm pulling this quilt out. It's time for the Halloween quilt. You probably noticed it right there behind me. So I'm going to be sharing the details with you on my Halloween quilt, why it's my favorite, and give you a good close-up look of that. And then I want you to stick around to the end of the video because you and I are going to have a little chit chat. I've got something that's kind of been like running through my mind that I feel I need to share. So make sure you stick around for that chat at the end after I show you the details of my favorite Halloween quilt. Well, shoot, you can't really tell because there's so much stuff going on in the background, but I figured if I was going to do a true and proper Halloween quilt reveal, I should probably dress for the occasion. So I got my little kitty cat ears. Can you see them? There they are. So I got dressed up with just a tiny bit for the video today. But this is my favorite Halloween quilt. Don't worry, I'm going to show you all of the details of it. But look at these colors. Look how beautiful and fun this is. I really love the colors of Halloween. The oranges, the blacks, the whites, the lime greens, the purples, you know? Like it's a fun colored holiday. Yeah, it's a fun colored holiday. So this quilt is one that I made a few years ago, and I pull it out every Halloween because, you know, it's my Halloween quilt. But I went a little above and beyond in some of the ways that I did this quilt because the border of this quilt, two sides, let me show you that. Two sides are perfectly straight, and then the top and the bottom of this quilt are zigzags. Isn't that fun? So I actually like to hang this quilt on my entryway wall. We don't actually like snuggle up with this quilt most of the time because I like to display it as more of like a add a whole bunch of color to the room type of piece. The way that I collected all of this fabric was I have really good friends, okay? We shared scraps and they were done making Halloween quilts and they said, "Kristen, have you made a Halloween quilt?" I said, "No, I haven't." And that's how I came to own a whole bunch of Halloween scraps. So this was a very scrappy project. I wanted to choose a pattern that was scrap friendly. And so this is what I came up with. So you can see that there is mostly columns that the quilt is made up of. And there is a whole lot of black and white. So I cut my strips into nice wide chunky pieces. And then I cut the angles on the side at a specific measurement, and then I pieced them all together and trimmed it up again. All of the points on the chevrons actually do meet up. That was kind of important to me, that it didn't get off or it didn't look really like wonky or crazy. I wanted a very geometric pattern on here. It did take me a while to figure out where I wanted all of the black and white pieces on this and where I wanted the colors. I wanted the colors to be very varied, okay? I wanted them to be very spread out. I wanted it to be very balanced. I didn't want like a whole section of the quilt to be very overwhelming with the blacks and whites or the spider print or, you know, too much lime green. I wanted it very balanced in there. Another thing that I did was I just framed the quilt out and bound it with a very simple black fabric. So it kind of made, you know, a very sharp contrasting frame to the rest of the quilt and just gives your eye something very calm to look at. Also in the running was a black and white striped binding, but it would have felt a little bit too crazy to me. So I stuck with the plain black simple binding on this. One thing that made me super duper happy was on the front of this quilt, I decided to try applique for the first time. Yes, this was my first applique piece that I did, and it wasn't great the first time. I actually had to, I had a smaller bat on this spot and then I picked it out and I did a bigger bat because I wasn't happy with it. I did go through and actually put batting underneath the bat so that he kind of poofed out a little bit more and he didn't just blend in with the fabric. Okay, you want to talk about using every single scrap that you have. take a look at the back of my Halloween quilt. This is more of the scraps that I had from my sweet quilter friends, okay? I used just about everything I could find, and then I ended up having to add in the moon and the stars print here, okay? Just to finish it out. I did do like a jelly roll style method to finish off the back of the quilt, and then I cut it in half because it wasn't quite wide enough and I needed a little bit more fabric. So I cut it in half and I added that big dark strip down the middle with the moon and the stars fabric so that it just made it to the edges. It gave a little bit more visual interest, and I didn't have to have like a weird joining seam down the center of the quilt. So I'm really happy with the way that the back of this turned out, even though the back doesn't get as much views as the front of the quilt does. I've had a ton of people who have watched my video tutorial on jelly roll quilts. If you're a beginner quilter, even if you're like an intermediate quilter and you're just looking for something that is easy, something that's not going to take a ton of brain power to work through and figure out, a jelly roll race quilt is something that turns out beautiful, is really fun. I like to use these on the back of my quilts so that the front of the quilt coordinates with the fabrics on the back of the quilt, and really the back of the quilt is usually just scraps from the front of my quilt, okay? So if you are interested in that tutorial, I'm going to put a link across the top of the screen here so that you can go in and watch that tutorial. It's very easy to follow. I've had a ton of people that have told me that it is just happy, like, you know, very soothing quilt to make because you don't have to be too fussy with it, and it's very, very forgiving. So put a link across the top. Make sure you check out that video, okay? And the last thing that I want to give you some detail views on is the way that I did the binding and the border on this quilt. I guess that it's more like the edge of the quilt. It's not the border, but these zigzag edges, I didn't want to lose those fun chevron patterns in the edge of the quilt. So I just kept them. Now, don't ask me for specific advice on how you bind those corners, because I can guarantee you this was made several years ago, and I can guarantee you that I completely fudged it, okay? There was no specific method to it. There was no like, this worked perfectly for me. I am positive that I just fudged it and made it work, and I sewed it down and it hasn't come apart. Nothing's happened to it. So let that be a lesson for you in terms of just do what works and nobody will see your mistakes, okay? So here is a view of the full Halloween quilt. I love it. I think it's so fun. I think it makes me happy every time that I pull it out, and I think that is a sign of a really good holiday quilt, no matter what holiday it is. If it makes you happy when you pull it out because it just has fun fabrics and it's bright and cheery, that's what my goal is when I make quilts, is I just want them to bring joy to people. So that kind of leads me into what I said we were gonna have a chat about at the end of this video. And you know what? I think I'm gonna go sit somewhere more comfortable so that we can just have like a friend-to-friend chat, okay? Hold on one second. Okay, I feel a little bit more comfortable here. One thing that I did with this Halloween quilt was I refused to make it complicated, because I had a ton of scraps that I was working with. I have no idea how much that was in yardage. This was all like trimmings from other quilts that other quilters had worked on, right? So like I can't look for a pattern and it tell me that I need a yard. Also, all of these were like off prints from Joann's Fabric, like who knows how many years ago, okay? So the chances of me walking in and finding more of a specific fabric weren't gonna happen. So on this quilt, I just refused to make it hard. I looked for a pattern and I didn't actually end up finding one. I know I didn't create like the chevron pattern, okay? But for this quilt, I kind of made it up as I went, okay? I figured out that, like, you know, the minimum strip that I could count and cut, and then I worked from there and I just kind of put it together. So whether you think that's actually like hard or easy, it was what worked for me. And I think going into the holiday season, going into the point of year where like you know, summer's over. It's kind of like that back to work, back to school, back to like routine time of year. And also when, you know, we look at like possibly fall travel, possibly like staying in because it's getting snowy. It doesn't snow here in Texas, so I don't have to worry about that. It just seems like the year gets so much faster, so much quicker, and so much busier from about here on out. Because actually, you know, it's the end of September right now, and I really honestly feel like I just blinked and September is over. So if you feel that same way, leave a comment down below here in the comment section and just give me like a whoa, me too, because I don't know where September went. My brain's still stuck in August. But thankfully that cold weather will be coming soon and I'll get to enjoy fall. I really love the fall season. So I'm looking forward to that, but also kind of pleading with the calendar to slow down just a little bit because it hasn't even started and I feel like I'm behind. So that's what I want to kind of make you aware of too today is if you feel exactly like that where you're already behind before you even get started, take a really good hard look at your calendar and see what is not necessary, okay? We all have obligations that people are counting on us for, okay? We all have those obligations where you have a responsibility and those are important to you to keep, okay? There's also obligations, and I know this for a ton of very busy women, there are also obligations on your calendar that you expect you to keep, but nobody else really does, right? Those like extra things that you pile on yourself because you're a nice person, okay? Because you put things on your plate, because you want to help people, because you want to do all of these wonderful things and you like doing all of those wonderful things. Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting like tons of stuff on my calendar that I don't like, but I am putting a ton of stuff on my calendar that is not necessary and probably will still happen even if I'm not a part of it. Okay, so take a good hard look at your calendar over the next week, and as the holidays and, you know, things start coming in, because believe me, like all the stores have already got the Christmas stuff up, like one aisle over from all of the scary Halloween stuff. Believe me, you're going to start feeling it crowd around you. It's going to start coming, it's going to start rushing past you, and you're going to lose the opportunity to savor those moments that these times were actually intended for, okay? Time with your family, time with your loved ones, time to rest and relax and actually remember the reason that you do the hustle and bustle in the first place, right? If you don't ever stop to savor those moments and the wonderful things that you have accomplished, guys, this race is never gonna end, okay? So do that in the next couple of weeks. Check some things off your calendar that don't really need to be there, okay? And focus on savoring those really sweet moments. You know, for instance, my daughter's 14th birthday party is happening this weekend at my house, probably with like 20 other teenagers. Yeah, I signed up for that. I totally signed up for it. And by the way, I throw amazing parties. These kids are gonna have a blast. That's something that I really love to do, but I want you to have a good holiday season. I know a lot of you set those goals for like, everybody gets a quilt for Christmas. And now you're going, oh no, you know, and you're starting to stress out before it's really even happening, okay? If the world isn't gonna end, just take it day by day, do what you can, and enjoy and savor those moments. I hope that you have a great rest of the week. I will talk to you soon. I have some fun tutorials coming up for you in the next few weeks, some things that I'm working on and I'm excited to share with you. Have a great day and I'll talk to you soon. Hey, if you're not subscribed to my channel, you're kind of missing out. I share videos every single week and I share all of my tips, tricks, and tutorials for modern quilters. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're notified when I post new content. I appreciate it so much. Bye.